Hey, I'm live. I'm back. This is I believe my first live stream in my new house. Yay. I moved. I bought a home. It's a lot to get everything together, but super blessed and super excited to be here and just getting some logistical things set up first before we jump right in for today. But I hope you're excited to talk about money because it's super important and it will always remain important. So thus this is why, as you see on my tabs, gotten it all together. Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert T. Kiyosaki. This book will change your life. Get it immediately. Go to dressyourmate.com. Let me get my banners going for y'all. Yes, let's show that. Alrighty. So let's jump into the presentation. Lots to talk about. We're going to have to do this in a New York minute. So yay to that. All right. So let's get into our slides. All right, so recently I started starting the book club with like a quote, and rightfully so, since it is the work of Robert T. Kiyosaki that we're reading from Rich Dad Poor Dad. I thought this would be a really cool quote to share. In school, we learn that mistakes are bad and we are punished for making them. Yet, if you look at the way humans are designed to learn, we learn by making mistakes. We learn to walk by falling down. If we never fell down, we would never walk. So what does that mean? I interpret that to mean you learn more when you stumble and when you fall than you ever do just standing and existing. So when we look at that in our careers, when we look at that in business, the importance of learning and having things not go how they're quote unquote supposed to go is exactly what's supposed to happen. Because in that fall, failure, however you want to label it, there's going to be a lesson learned, and that lesson is going to be able to promulgate you and push you forward into new success, into new opportunities that you never thought you had before. So I think that's a win. And it's just something that we have to lean into. And I totally understand it. I'm a person. You can ask my husband, you can ask my friends, people who know me. I do not like failure. I do not like feeling like I'm not doing something and it's going well. But as I've gotten older and I've exposed myself to new things, I've learned that actually that attitude is actually going to stand in the way of you being able to really understand the lessons that you need to learn to be able to move forward. So let's fail together, y'all. How we're going to set up today. We're going to do a meet and greet, meaning I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to answer them. I hope you answer them in the chat so that we make it conversational. We're going to do a quick book summary of like what this book is about, this being this book. And then we're going to do some book club discussion points. And there's a lot there. I'm hoping to hit each and every one of them. But if I don't worry, you have it on this presentation. You can go back and peruse, and if you get the book, which I hope you do at dressyourmate.com, then you'll be able to go through the book yourself and then talk about next steps. So fairly easy. Meet and greet. Natasha Nurse, Dress Your Mate, Woken Free, DEI professional. I am a coach, a speaker, a blogger, an author, a mom. I do a lot, and all of it under the guise of educating, empowering, and just living life on purpose. So I hope you are doing the same. Get to know me. Let's do this through a financial scope. So do you have a budget? Yes, I believe I started budgeting in college, actually, and maybe you could start before. That was when I started, and the biggest thing, and it's not like a fancy budget. I developed it in a Google sheet, like an Excel thing, except through Google. And essentially what I do is I break it out based on what are my ongoing expenses, and then having categories that allow me for like discretionary funds, right? So that Amazon bill that comes through when you want to, have a little bit of funding for takeout, things like that. So I have it categorized that way. Do I look at it every month? No, I used to when I was in college. And I realized when putting this together, oh, girl, it's time to refresh and look at that budget. Now that I am a homeowner, more so than ever, it's really critical to be budgeting, making sure that I'm taking care of household as well as planning for the future. So good question. Do you have a budget? Please put your answer in the chat. How could you save more on household expenses? So I think there are innate costs that come with home ownership, for instance. Like even if I didn't want to save a pet, even if I wanted to save a penny, there's just things that are going to come to cost regarding like your roof or your plumbing or things like that. What I would say is best way that I could save more is reducing the takeout, which we've actively been doing, which I'm really proud of, and cooking more and starving more. Yes, 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 all of that good jazz. But also the Amazoning. I've done better actually, which has been really hard because if you know me, you know my deep passion, my deep affiliation to Amazon.com, but have been actively working where I've had days go without me buying something, which is like, come on, Tosh, really? Yes, but that's a huge accomplishment for me. And so if that's a huge accomplishment for you, I'd love for you to put that in the chat and share that with me. And then what are other additional costs? Just really, I think the mindset of what do I want versus what do I need. If you're always shopping with a lens of what do I need, then by default, you're going to reduce your costs and your expenses. But I believe so many of us, I'm not going to throw a random number out for you, but you can Google it. A lot of us shop through the lens of what do I want? And that's cool. You absolutely should live life based on your wants and your needs, but based on your budget, based on your expenses, based on how much money is coming into your household. You really have to balance that with how much is going out. So really encouraging shopping based on a need more than a want. That's what I've been applying to my own life. And I've been able to see like, oh, I can retain more of my check this way. I can make more money and not spend it all if I do this. So that's one tip there. Are you spending money on the things that mean the most to me? Yes. So most of the money I spend is on household. It's on food to feed me and my family and my child. It's on making sure that I have right equipment for my ventures and my work and my career. So yes, I would say there's expenditure of things that I want that I don't need, but some of your wants are important to you as well. So I would say yes, and I would feel good about that answer. Does your lifestyle allow for work-life balance? Ooh, child. It depends on how you define work-life balance. So I spoke to this actually in my podcast, and I would say work-life balance is absolutely possible. It's absolutely real, but it requires strategy on a daily basis. It requires auditing of your behaviors, of looking at the things that are most time intensive versus how are you wasting time and being, and what productivity is going to look like for you. So as of right now, does my lifestyle allow for it? Yes, because I work from home. I only choose to work on things that I'm passionate about in my career, as well as during my free time and stuff like that. So yes, but I've intentionally make choices to do so, and I don't have a lot of like outdoors activities that take me away from like being able to maximize my time with my son, maximize time with hubby, and all of that good stuff. So yeah, I would say yes, but I'm curious to know for those who watch this or now or on the replay, would be curious to know kind of what would your answer be for that question. And then last question, do you have a money mindset that hurts or helps? So starting in college, that's when I became aware of the law of attraction and the secret. Shout out to Rhonda Burns. And me and my husband are strong practitioners on law of attraction. We have our own law of attraction course on Listenable, actually. And really, really focusing on the idea of how do you create a mindset and the language you think and the language you speak. I just did a set of affirmations for moms on self-love and self-care. So I'm really, really focused on language that not only you share with others, but the ones you share with yourself is most important. And my money mindset is that money comes easily and freely, and that you can always get a new job, you can always make new money, you can always create the lifestyle you want for yourself. You just have to want it, believe in yourself, and then take the necessary action. So yeah, I would say yes to that as well. So again, out of curiosity, would love to know what is your answer to that. All righty. So let's keep it moving. Book summary. So again, I'll pick it up for you. What is this book all about? Oops, just dropped something. If you've read the Rich Dad Poor Dad, you know his story. And so essentially this book is a breakdown of understanding what are the different quadrants, what does the E, the B, the S, and the I, we'll get into it, what this quadrant means and how that equates to financial freedom. That would be the fastest, easiest way I would define this. And in what I like the most about the book is it made me really question how to think about life through each part of each quadrant. And that's where I think getting into the points will be really, really helpful. So let's dive in, because like I said, there's a lot to talk about. That's why I had like 5,000 tabs in here. My husband always is like, "You're nuts." Who reads like this? But I don't care. It helps me when putting together these book clubs, as well as just like whenever I want to look back at a book, I don't have to be like, "Oh man, where was that on that page?" It's right there on your tab. Thank you and goodbye. Page one. So which quadrant are you in? The cash flow quadrant is a way to categorize people based on where their money comes from. So the E stands for employee, the B stands for big business, the S stands for small business or self employed, and then the I for investor. So again, E, employee, B, big business, 500 employees, S for small business or self employed, and then I for investor. And the importance of understanding why this quadrant exists this way is because each quadrant, it's a different category that people live in, and in some people's careers or lives, they transition, they go from the employee to the small business or self-employed. For some, they go from employee to, maybe they create a big business, and some go from employee and then they're also investors, or maybe you live within each of the quadrants, but there's different mindsets, there's different actions and decisions that you're going to make based on the different spaces that you're going to be in. So that's the importance of understanding that. So on page 3 to 4, poor dad versus rich dad advice. I thought this was really helpful. So listen to this. So poor dad's advice. Growing up, my highly educated but poor dad always said, go to school, get good grades, and find a safe, secure job. He was recommending a life path that looked like this. So you go from the E to the S, so from the employee to the small business or self-employed. Poor dad recommended that I become either a well-paid employee or a well-paid self-employed professional, such as a medical doctor, lawyer, or accountant. My poor dad was very concerned about a steady paycheck, benefits, and job security. That's why he was a well-paid government official, the head of education for the state of Hawaii. Rich dad's advice. My rich dad, but uneducated dad, offered very different advice. He said, go to school, graduate, build businesses, and become a successful investor. He was recommending a path that looked like this. So from that big business to investor, the BDI. This book is about the mental, emotional, and educational process I went through in following my rich dad's advice. Super interesting, right? And I also can attest to the fact that growing up, I think very much why I was also like very motivated to become a lawyer was the idea that like that is status, that is dot 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 supposed wealth, right? But as many of you I'm sure know, there are tons of professionals that are dirt poor. And that's okay, right? Like it is what it is. You define success and achievement for yourself. However, if financial freedom is what you're looking for, I think the moral of the story is you can go about making decisions in your career and in business that may be off the beaten path, or that may be a little bit more non-conventional, but it's about the time and effort and the viable resources that are going to come out of that earnings that you invest in and get. So things to think about. Next, what are the core differences? Page 32 through 40. So I don't think we're going to get through all of that because that's a lot of reading, y'all. It's a lot. But we can do some quick definitions that he puts on page 32 through 33. E quadrant. So a person who comes from the E, the employee quadrant, might say, I'm looking for a safe, secure job with good pay and excellent benefits. That makes sense, right? When people want to get a job, they're looking for the salary, they're looking for those benefits, they're looking for the opportunity to quote unquote feel secure, even though there's no security in life, but we like to pretend and put that out there for ourselves. S quadrant. A person who comes from the S, the self-employed quadrant, might say, my rate is $75 per hour, or my normal commission rate is 6% of the total price, or I can't seem to find people who want to work and do the job right, or I've got more than 20 hours into this project. So those are some of the considerations and things that live within the self-employed space. B quadrant words. A person operating out of the B, the business owner quadrant, might say, I'm looking for a new president to run my company. right? So big boss moves type of situation. I quadrant word. Someone operating out of the I investor quadrant might say, is my cash flow based on an internal rate of return or net rate of return? Ooh, fancy terms, right? Sometimes this can be, and I do want to talk through that. Sometimes it can sometimes be a little bit daunting or intimidating for folks who are casual with financial terms, or like talking about things that are much more nebulous and less tangible, like within the finance world. I encourage you to pause before we get to the space of, ooh, finance isn't a me thing, which I like. That has come out of my mouth more times than I'd like to admit. But we all can be more financially savvy. We all can embrace finance. I love finance a lot more in my years, especially within my career, but also within just the ability to make more money is going to come with your comfortability with money. The more that you resist, the more that you challenge it, is the more that you are saying to the universe, no, I didn't want it, and I do want it. So I encourage you to lean in on financial freedom, lean in on learning having a good relationship with money, right? The same way that you would say want to have a good relationship with your kid, to be able to communicate, to be able to set boundaries, to be able to guide this person. Same with money, right? We have to think about it as more of an energy exchange as opposed to anything else. And so if you put good energy towards it, it's going to flow it right back to you. And in turn, cha-ching. And that sounds about right. So good. Now on page 54, this was a really interesting spot in the book. It's titled The Definition of Wealth. So the definition of wealth is the number of days you can survive without physically working, or anyone else in your household physically working, and still maintain your standard of living. For example, if your monthly expenses are $5,000 a month and you have $20,000 in savings, your wealth is approximately 4 months or 120 days. Wealth is measured in time, not dollars. By 1994, Kim and I were wealthy indefinitely, barring great economic changes, because the income from our investments were greater than our monthly expenses. Ultimately, it's not how much money you make that matters, but how much money you keep and how long that money works for you. Every day I meet many people who make a lot of money, but all of their money goes out of the expense column. Every time they make a little more money, they go shopping. They often buy a bigger house or a new car, which results in long-term debt and more hard work. Nothing is left to go into the asset column. The money goes out so fast that you think they took some kind of financial laxative. That's very visually interesting, but so, whoa, right? Money is defined by what? The number of days you can survive without working. So the time attachment to what is in the bank. That powerful stuff there. This book was deeply powerful. And, it's a little bit dated, but I think that there's so much that can be gained from just understanding more about money and being, I do want to shout this out, Happy Women's History Month. For us women, I know that typically, historically, I would say, I can't speak to current day times, but historically, women typically have not been thrown in the front or the forefront of like trying to be more financially savvy. And I would say there's nothing better than a woman can do, shout out to our women leaders around the world, than really understanding our wealth and really understanding what financial independence looks like for us. And a big part of that is understanding money on a deeper level. So really encourage my women to join this, to watch this, to share this video out, and to get this book immediately, because it's really a game changer in understanding money on a deeper level and what financial freedom is going to look like for you. So powerful stuff, powerful stuff. Let's get to the next section. So if you're interested in investing, and there's different types of investors, I wouldn't want you folks to think about like only folks who can only do the stock market or could only do X amount of thousands of dollars. You can invest small amounts. You can invest medium. Like there's different stages of and levels of investment. But on page 160, he says the following. That's why 9 out of 10 investors don't make money, said Rich Dad. While they might not lose money, they don't make any either. They just sort of break even, making some and losing some. That's because they invest with their eyes and emotions rather than with their minds. Many people invest because they want to get rich quickly. So instead of becoming investors, they wind up being dreamers, hustlers, gamblers, and crooks. The world is filled with them. So let's sit down, go back over this losing deal you just bought, and I'll teach you how to turn it into a winning deal. I'll begin to teach your mind to see what your eyes can't. I was I was deeply entertained by that passage because I had never really thought about investors from that perspective, and I was just like, "Huh, interesting." So I'd love to share it for folks to share in the comments. Like, how does that read with you? What are you thinking? Now, another really just like, if you weren't already aware of this, just bear with me. Banks don't need your savings. Besides, banks really don't need your savings. They don't need much in deposits because they can magnify money at least 10 times. If you put $1 in the bank, by law, the bank can lend out $10. And depending upon the reserve limits imposed by the central bank, possibly much more, that means your single dollar suddenly becomes $10 or more. It's magic. When my rich dad showed me that, I fell in love with the idea. At that point, I knew that I wanted to own a bank and not go to school to become a banker. On top of that, the bank may pay less than 1% interest on that $1. In better economic times, it could be 5%, and you as a consumer would feel secure because the bank is paying you something on your money. Banks see this as a good customer relations because if you have savings with them, you may come in and borrow money too. They want you to do this because they can then charge 9% or more on what you borrow, while you may make less than 1% on your $1. The bank make 9% or more on the $10 of debt your single dollar has generated. Recently, I received a new credit card offer that advertised 8.9% interest. But since I understood the legal jargon and the fine print, I saw it was really 23%. Needless to say, I took a pass. There's a lot that can ruminate from that, but things to understand. Is saving in your bank the pathway to financial freedom? No. I think that's one thing that most of us could agree upon, especially what has happened with the Silicon Valley Bank situation, right? Like folks seeing kind of that going on. And again, this book is not written like this year. This is, a little bit older and still kind of sharing the knowledge that I think people fail to recognize, and folks just want to automatically throw a lot of money into the bank. And it's like, but what is that getting you in the long term? What are you trying to achieve here? So there's that. Now let's see page 185. Let's see if that one, we have time for that. Super interesting. I was fascinated. Okay, yeah, this is a good one. So opinion versus facts. Rich Dad nodded his head. Very good. Most people struggle financially because they spend their lives using opinions rather than facts when making financial decisions. Opinions such as your house is an asset, the price of real estate always goes up, blue chip stocks are your best investment, it takes money to make money, stocks have always outperformed real estate, you should diversify your portfolio, you have to be dishonest to be rich, investing is risky, play it safe. Have you heard any of these phrases? I have. I believe the only phrase I had not heard in my life was about the blue chip stocks. That is a space where I definitely look forward to learning more about, like not real estate, but stock investments and things like that. Because my husband, he has been an investor in that market for years, but I have always stayed away. I mean, I financially participate with him, but I don't. I like if you were to be like, oh, explain the different types and I more to learn there, more to embrace there, more to lead in there. But I was like, yes, because again, depending upon what you're exposed to, what your comfort levels are with finance and talking about financial stuff, it can be daunting, it can be challenging, and then yeah. There's a difference between an opinion and a fact. I love that just from as the podcaster perspective, that helped birth our podcast because we were constantly hearing people argue on opinion, not on fact. And there was a difference. And I love that like call out from a financial perspective. So let's see, let's go into the wealth versus the losing wealth qualities. And then I think we'll wrap it up there. So 292. And it is a bit of a read, but as someone who reads a lot, and if y'all hear me, I'm not a fan of like long books. I'm just like, you couldn't have said this quicker. Wait a minute, people got things to do. You'll go through it fast, and because you'll be so fascinated by the wealth and the nuggets through on each single page. Like shout out to Robert Kiyosaki for writing this. Like such a great book. A number of years ago, there was a study done of rich and poor all around the world to find out how people born into poverty eventually become wealthy. The study found that these people, regardless of where they live, possess three qualities. One, they maintain a long term vision and plan. Two, they believe in delayed gratification. Ooh, that part. Three, they use the power of compounding in their favor. So let me repeat this. So, folks who go from poor to wealthy, they one, maintain a long term vision and plan. Two, believe in delayed gratification. And then three, they use the power of compounding in their favor. Interesting. Now, the inverse for folks who, there are rich families who lose most of their wealth after only three generations. Not surprisingly, the study found that these people possess the following three qualities. One, they have short term vision. Two, they have a desire for immediate gratification. And three, they abuse the power of compounding. Look at that. So, what's the difference? It's the inverse, right? And so much of life follows suit that way. If you go this way, you'll have this outcome. And if you do exactly the opposite, you'll have exactly the opposite outcome. Isn't that fascinating? So again, there's more to hit here, but my take on this book was I'm just deeply grateful that he wrote it, that he shared his knowledge, that we live in a world where we have resources like this available to us. And all it takes is for you to invest your own money or for you to invest your time. Again, you can get this book on dressyourmate.com. If you're like, hey, Tosh, I wish I could, I don't have the discretionary money, cool. Then go to your local library and pick up a copy of this book. I just really encourage as many people that care about where they want to sit financially in their future to read this book. Buy it if you can. If you can't, get it from your library. Please get the book. That's yes. If you want to do something for me, do that. Now, next book we're reading. I've read this book before. I love Austin Kleon. I think we spoke about it actually on my podcast with hubby, and I can't get enough of him. So I'm really excited actually to bring this to the Dress Your Mate platform, reread it again. I'm really looking through my doing kind of my own audit of content and how I approach content creation as well. And, I think that there's going to be new lessons for me to relearn as well as for us to talk about through our next book club. So all book clubs, where do you find them? So dressyourmate.com. You can totally sign up, please. I do this through Facebook, and I'm out here on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, everywhere, guys. So please, please, please just join me, share this out. And thank you for your time. We just made it under the prescribed amount. So let me get back into this space, and then let's see what comments there are. So hubby shares, and I'll put this. He said it was such a great read. Thank you. And then Marsha, shout out to my mother-in-law. I really enjoyed this book. It's not just about money, but life skills in general. Thank you, Marsha. And then, yes, Khalil, there's tabs on almost every page. There's a lot here to learn. Stop being mean. And then Marsha writes, it's interesting how many of these predictions about the banking industry are coming true now. It is. And so that's just a testament really to showing how knowledgeable he is on the space, right? And just what the value again of getting this book. So really, 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 for my women, it's Women's History Month. The best thing you can do as a woman is to develop financial independence. Read this book. For my male counterparts, if you are interested in making more money and understanding how to approach life in a different way, this is the book for you. So thank you both, Marsha and Khalil, for being here, and everyone else who watches this on the replay. More comments, more questions, put them in the comment section, please. And I hope to see you next month for my next book club. All right, y'all. So enjoy the rest of your day. I have to go to the gym. Be good. Bye.